So, I'm doing this now for a while, since I'm not really going to be torching anything. So, you want to be a glass blower. There's several things that you're going to need to start glass blowing. One of them is a torch, and depending upon what type of, or again, there's the other, which I have no clue on because I've never really done in what's called furnace work. The only type I've done is work with a torch like this, and or other torches, very well, not very similar, but in essence, a gas-powered torch lighting up and melting glass. That's basically all I've done in my life. November of '82 is when I started. 1982. It's been a while. Anyway, I have several things that I think that you're going to need to start glass blowing. Number one on the list of things that you're going to need is a pair, well, of course, you're going to need a torch. The type of torch right here I have is over $1,000. But you don't have to go for the $1,000 torch to just start melting glass. One of the things that you can do, if you can find in your local area, is a glass blowing shop or a where you could take a class on glass blowing, which would save you a whole lot of time and effort to give you an idea on whether you can or cannot do glass blowing. There are people who, oh yeah, I want to do it, but once they get into it, it's like, I don't want to do this. And that's after spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get there. That's not the best thing in the world. But so you want to be a glass blower. First thing you're going to need, of course, is a torch to melt glass with. This one, of course, like I said, is $1,000. But there are other torches that you can get. Matter of fact, one of the things I did on my YouTube channel, and one of the things that I will put down in the thing below is a URL to basically every torch that I've demoed on my channel here. One of them, of course, is this torch, which I do most of the time. Another torch that I did, which is one of my top viewing videos, is glass hacks with a budget torch. And this is the torch right here. It's basically an oxygen acetylene torch, but I adapted it and used propane and oxygen on it. Most of the time I work with glass, I do oxygen propane. But when I first started doing glass, I used a torch that was just a propane blowtorch, or what's basically known as a hothead torch. And you think I could show it to you right now? Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I'll be right back. And I found it. This is it. You put that on top of one of those portable propane bottles and light it up, and the fire will come out. And that's how I started many years ago. Picked up a propane blowtorch like this and found some soda bottles. Started breaking them down into little chunks, and with a pair of pliers and odds and ends, I just started melting, twisting, and stretching, and I've been hooked ever since. I have taken the long road. One of the things I try to do on my YouTube channel is help people to take the short road and get there a little faster and get there with a little bit more quality. I am not telling you that what I have is written in stone and you got to have this and nothing else but this. That's not the way I am. I'm the type of person that gives you a direction to go in, and you determine your path to get there. And if you don't, that's where the problems come, I guess. Now, I have done many things in my life dealing with glass blowing. One of them is, of course, I make beads, marbles, figurines, and stuff like that. I also have made tobacco pipes. I've also done neon signs. All of that dealing with glass, melting, bending, stretching, pulling, making signs and stuff like that. All one piece at a time in front of my hands, in front of a flame. And I have a few techniques that I picked up, again, to help you cut corners without cutting quality. First of all, torch. I've said that several times. I've said the torch. But second, after the torch, again, this is one type of torch you can get. Again, $15 to $20 at the hardware store. Propane tanks, you'll go through those. Does the job and gets you starting to melt glass. Another thing that you need along the road is a pair of didymium glasses. They run from anywhere from 40 to whatever you want to spend on them. Even if you want to get them with prescription lenses on them, you can do that if you feel like that's the way you want to go. If you've got that money to spend, more power to you. Next thing you're going to need is, of course, tools to work with. Some of the tools that come in real handy is you can go to welding shops and get some of these graphite, well, not red. You can go to like craft places and get welding or graphite pencils, very similar to this, or graphite rods. And these graphite rods you can sharpen up just like a pencil and use to manipulate glass. I've also got some in the form of pads, and if you can, find those on eBay and YouTube and whatever, or eBay and other places, that all you need is a nice square chunk or two, and that will help you to, instead of flattening it on wood or flattening it on, the graphite does not contaminate the glass. So if you press it onto the graphite, you'll get a nice, smooth, clean surface to work with. And that's why a lot of the marble molds that you see are made out of graphite, and that's why you see a lot of other bead molds are made out of graphite. It's because they tend to take and not contaminate the glass, which is a good thing. Now, another thing that you got to think of along the way is tools. And a good quick thing that comes to mind is a pair of tweezers. These are a little bit long, but they do the job quite nicely. If you can't get a hold of tweezers, guess what? Use what's available. If you can't love the ones you're with, if you can't be with the ones you love the ones you're with. I've learned to use pliers. I've learned to use wire cutters. I've learned to use simple tools around me to make what I want done. Another thing that comes in handy is just a regular stainless steel butter knife to make creases in something, if you want to make leaves or stuff like that. I also find that if you play with some of the tools around you, one of the things I found that does really well for me is a diamond cut file like this. And what I use for that, there's several things you can use the diamond cut file for. One of them is to cut or to score the glass so that you can snap it in a certain spot. Like, for example, you'll listen and you'll hear a crackling noise. That leaves a nice little, I don't know if you can see it. There you can. That little nidge there. You then take and wet that spot and go the score at 12, your thumbs at 6, and push away from you. And usually, and that one didn't come out too bad. It did leave a little bit of an edge, but that'll snap that glass just like so. You just have to take your time, take the patience to learn. Realize another thing about glass blowing is these are going to be your baby steps or your baby talking. A baby looks at an adult walking across the room and says, "Hey, I can do that." And he gets up, goes, falling over time and time again. But after a lot of practice and a lot of time and effort learning stability and balance and how far to put that leg in front of the other and this leg to put in front of the other, he finally gets the hang of it, and where he can run across the room himself and you're chasing after him. And that's the way it works. They think they know it all, but they still have a lot to learn. That's the way it is. Baby steps and even baby talk. You know, your first words are not full sentences, or sometimes it's just one word like dada or mama or whatever. It's one step at a time, one piece at a time, that you'll learn how to do things with glass if you have the patience and the persistence and the imagination. It helps to have a little bit of imagination. Some of the things that helped me along the way that I really liked about glass blowing was, well, many facets of my life came together. Things that I do every day came together and worked well in glass blowing. Mathematics. I wasn't a math whiz where, you know, I could do calculus at the drop of a hat, but I learned the basic form of math and where you could calculate things and do things to get things done. And also science. What you're basically doing is basic physics, because you're heating up a material and reshaping it while it's in a molten form, and then taking it out of that flame and then letting it cool into the position that you want and work with. Now, glass, that's another thing. When I say glass, everybody thinks glass is glass. Everybody thinks that. I mean, they just say, oh, glass is glass. But that's like saying aluminum is steel. Yes, they're two metals, but they're both a metal. And that would be like saying aluminum is steel. But no, one metal is more pliable, another one is more durable, each one has qualities. And that's the thing about glass. There is different types of glass that, you know, you'll come across. Like soda bottles melts at one temperature. Stained glass melts at maybe another temperature. Pyrex, like test tubes, borosilicate is one of the name brands that they use. That melts at another temperature. Another type of glass, quartz glass, which is basically stone that is melted down and refined into a clear, and it takes a lot more heat to melt something like that. Now, what you can do is, again, one of the things I suggest you do is try to find a class in your area to do this. Also, if you have any questions, any ideas that you would like to add to this, this is going to be the first episode. I'm probably going to do about 3, maybe 4 episodes dealing with different torches and dealing with different configurations. I even have oxygen tanks and oxygen concentrators is what I use most of the time. But I will show you the differences of what you can get, and depending upon if you plan on doing this for a long haul, things that you can do, and if you don't plan to do it for a living but creativity, there's lots of things you can do there too. Now, with that, one more thing, and then I'm going to call this episode finished, is when you're working with glass is sharp enough to cut you. When it breaks, it doesn't just break to a crunchy edge. It breaks down to the molecule, which means it's sharper than a scalpel. And if you just happen to graze yourself across an edge of glass, guess what? You're going to get cut. And also, while you're working with glass, it's hot enough to burn you. So you always, when you're working with a piece of glass, you'll be working and then you'll set it down, but always set the hot end away from you. The reason being is you consciously or subconsciously pick up the end that's closest to you. And if you heat up this end and then put it over here and then grab it, you're going to know it. Okay? with those two things that I've just talked about is a saying that I have. There'll be days that you'll cut yourself, and those I call days of blood sacrifice. Excuse me, dyslexia kicking in. Days of blood sacrifice. And the days that you burn yourself will be days of burnt offerings. And if you can't get over getting cut and getting burned and working your way to the point where you're not getting cut and burned, then this isn't the life for you. Yes, safety is first and foremost. And I will talk about ventilation. I will talk about a lot of things that are involved with glass blowing. And I want you to know that if you have questions, please put it in the comments below, and I will try to get to them and answer every single one. And that's what I've tried to do with most questions and or things that people have asked about me. I say that I'm going to do it, I do it. There's about one more episode, actually two more episodes that I got to get to. One of them I will deal with in the episodes of this because it's showing oxygen pressure on an oxygen tank versus an oxygen concentrator, which will, I guess you could say, unfold as we go. The other one that somebody has mentioned is my diachroic video. I admit that was one of the very first videos that I did, and I had a lower quality camera at the time. So with that said, I plan on doing one of those really quick here and doing another video on diachroic, how to use it, how to explain it, and also with the camera boom that I have now, it gets right down almost into the flame to where you're seeing just my hands move and the flame working. And that's the way I do with most of my videos, is you just see from a glass blower's torch point of view. In other words, you're not seeing it from this side or that side or in front of. This one is special because I'm doing the demo and trying to explain to you what glass blowing is all about. And in the other videos, and I have over 400 videos on YouTube that go through a menagerie, literally a menagerie of different things dealing with glass blowing, and special hints, special techniques. And again, most of what I say is not written in stone. It's just a direction to go in so that you can try and get something done. And the things and techniques that I have are what I would call simple enough that you can go from there and try it. And if you don't do it the first time or the second time, this is where persistence pays off. If you lose your temper and walk away and never come back, that's where the glass is won. But if you walk away and come back more composed and have been thinking about what you were doing, yes, it will frustrate the living daylights out of you, and it has, and many a time for me. But I've learned that, hey, eventually I'll work something out that works. And it's like Edison's light bulb. It wasn't the first time he did it. It was like in the thousands that he finally figured out how to make it work. But he was persistent enough to keep going until he made it work. With that said, thank you for being out there. Thank you for being my subscription base. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe down there. And there's also a little bell that you click, and that means more people will show up. And I know I didn't do any glass blowing this time around, but I plan on doing it continuously. And it is part of my life. It would be like taking a fish out of water without glass blowing, without me doing glass blowing. There's a couple of times a week where I'll get to doing other things and not get back to doing. And it's almost like having an itch that you don't realize you got until you come back, and then you're able to scratch that itch, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a good spot. I needed to get that and get it done. But anyway, thanks for being there. Subscribe and enjoy my channel. And again, if you have questions, ask. And if you don't have questions, and you just want to say, great job, great job. Click like, click subscribe, yada, yada, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. And as always, carpe vitro, which is one of my sayings. And the other one is, enjoy your day.